You are listening to the Taps and Teas Show, weekly conversations for people passionate about marketing, golf, and craft beer. Marty is the co-founder of Bad Rhino, an award-winning digital marketing agency helping golf and craft beer brands get real results in social media marketing. Here is your host, Marty McDonald.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Taps and Teas. Well, we've come to a point in thinking with our agency, and we started this very early on. We wanted to craft experiences. That was a big thing. We wanted to make sure that every project, every retainer project, every engagement, like whether it was just speaking at an event, consulting, training, whatever it was that came out of Bad Rhino was a real experience. So what does that mean? Well, what we saw, and we still see it today in the marketplace, is you have a template that somebody follows. And if you're an Italian restaurant or a craft beer or a golf brand, they just use the same methodology, same type of stuff, same type of content, and they don't tailor that experience to the specific business. They don't make sure it's custom. And that's one thing that we've done, and it's led to some very interesting conversations with clients and potential clients. You know, many are just like, hey, just give me a price. And we're like, no, it's not how we work. We need to learn a little bit more about your business so that we can help you. Because many times they're trying to do all the things. They're trying to do Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Twitter, all at the same time in different ways, using the same content though. And it doesn't really work that way. Certain things are going to work really well on Instagram. They're not going to work on Twitter, and vice versa. So we want to be sure that you're always crafting an experience for Bad Rhino. And you'll see, like, if you ever got a proposal from us, like right in our proposal, it'll say, we don't believe cookie cutter process. Cookie cutters belong in a kitchen. And it's a line we just threw in there, but it's true. We don't want somebody to sit there and say, is Bad Rhino giving us a same thing that the restaurant across the next town over is getting, because that's why we are interested in them, or another beer brand. What we do is we want to craft that experience. So we have a process to do that. And in our process, we don't just consider you another organization and toss that into a template, because we don't have any templates. Now, that's not entirely true, but the templates that we do have, we can tailor to everything. And we found the most success in social media can't be cookie cutter. It can have certain themes that are similar, but it has to have a unique voice for your company, no matter what it is and whatever your brand is. And if you don't have a unique voice to that, you really get stuck. Your story, your products, your customers' needs are incredibly unique. So we spend the time up front listening and researching and learning as much as we can to ensure we create customized pieces that delivers results to your organization. Your Bad Rhino social media marketing strategy will likely follow our main process. And where we start off with that is working with people to analyze their current marketing and their competitors. It's funny. I'll get somebody that's like, yeah, we want to work with you guys. And I'll be like, that's great. And we'll start going through everything. And they're like, well, what are you doing currently on social media? What are you doing on the internet? And they'll say, yeah, we tried this, we tried that, and it didn't work. And they'll say, well, what kind of results can you get? And it's like, okay, that's a fair question. But I will then turn around and say, what has been your most effective marketing campaign, to date? And most businesses can't answer that. Even large ones can't answer that right off the cuff. And some of them have to research the data. And that's really the key. So our first step is always to analyze current marketing. Take a look at who you feel your competitors are. Take a look at what's worked, what hasn't worked for your company. We're going to ask you a myriad of questions to uncover the truth. It's a good experience to go through. It's part of our discovery phase. This happens like super early on. But also go out into social media for your competitors. Pick 3 or 5. Take a look at their communities. Take a look at what they're doing. And make sure that you understand what your competitors are doing. Because often you're sitting in your office and you're thinking, man, how can we sell, more of this? Or how can we get more people into our tap rooms? Or how can we get more people to recognize our brand? And you're like, XYZ company does an awesome job and they're the best at it. And A lot of times what you find out is you perceive that, but that's not always the truth. So we want to set a baseline with all that to make sure that you understand what your competitors are doing and how you can mold that process that we'll put in there to make it most effective for you, make it unique for you. And sometimes it might be not going right into social media. It could be creating a new website, could be utilizing email techniques. Once we identify everything and come up with crafting that custom strategy and having some objectives there, we want to identify what's going to work for you within those social channels. So while Twitter might be awesome for a specific niche, it may prove less effective for your brand. So we may still use Twitter, but we're going to use it differently. So what we do is identify the best social media channels and all the other communities that are out there for your company and your brand. We'll also suggest a number of different updates, discussions, blog posts, targeting demographics. Make sure we understand what you need from a community/customer base and understand what their wants and needs are on social media and get you into those social channels and social communities with everything floating out there. So we want to craft that. We want to make sure that everything in there is unique to you. We don't want to just say, hey, here's a picture of a basketball that we use for this company. It's going to work great for you guys because it's March Madness. Well, maybe nobody in your customer base is a huge basketball fan. We need to know some of that. You tear into some of the data and you can see some of these things. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to test the March Madness post. It just means that we need to be on the same page to know which way we're going so that we can talk about the results or lack thereof that you've had in the past and make sure that we're putting you in the right position to succeed. And there's going to be some testing and there's going to be some changes as we go, but that's the nature of it. We want to craft an experience so that you can learn from it, but also get really great results from it.
Hey, if you're enjoying what you're hearing on the show and want more, head on over to tapsandtees.info and get our free report with game-changing tips and strategies straight to your inbox. Just enter your info and stop being stuck with no marketing plan.
So once we dive into all the content creation and approval and making sure that your company is on the same page with the account managers here and we have a strategy in place, the content becomes king. I always say content is queen and king is traffic. Now, someone will be like, oh, you have to be sexist on your podcast. That's not really the case. It's just to illustrate it, because you always hear content is king, content is king. Well, the real powerful thing is traffic. So wherever you think, you can put traffic in the most powerful position there, because if nobody sees your content, then guess what? You can have the most beautiful piece of content and the best videos and the best blog posts and the best online content with no traffic. You're dead in the water. So we want to make sure that we identify the right things that you're going to jump into in your content. And we come up with a list of content categories for each social channel. We understand that your brand and your story really needs to be shared in different ways for your target audience to receive that message. What we'll do is come up with we have expert content creators. So whether they're writing a blog post or they're starting out a video project for you, we want to make sure that you understand what's going to need to be promoted to get your brand to hit that target audience you really want to hit and ultimately get a result. And some of those results are going to be a little bit different at first, and we'll get to that later on. But we want to really craft that so that your audience is engaged and encouraged, response from that target market. And we also want to make sure we nail down the style and voice that you want your organization to have when we're talking to customers online, whether it's on Twitter, on Instagram. Some people like a snarky, kind of in-your-face type approach. Some are going to want to be, a little bit more vanilla because they know that's going to work for their target audience. And we're going to help you define that. We're going to help you do that. The next thing is making sure that it's implemented in the proper way. Look, we performed all the research. We identified where your target market is hiding out there. And we're going to craft the perfect social updates for your brand. We're going to have some fun with it now. Now we're going to start to build that buzz for your community and for your company to communicate directly to that target market. And it becomes a lot of fun. I'm going to pause right there when you get to implementation, because that's really those first 4 parts of crafting that experience. When we bring a client on, we want to make sure it's a right fit for both of us. We don't want to sit there and say, hey, you're the wrong golf course for us. well, I don't see that happening, or the wrong beer brand. I'll say if you have shitty beer, I don't want to represent you. Or if you treat your customers like crap already, we're not going to be able to help you to a certain degree. Hopefully, if it's reputation repair, we can help you there, but everybody's got to be committed to do that. So it does go both ways there. But at the same time, we want to make sure it's a good match, that you understand where we're coming from and where Marty and Rich and other people on the team are coming from. But at the same time, we want to make sure it's unique. I meet with people all the time, and at the time that they start talking about Bad Rhino, one of the questions they'll ask is, why do you keep the name Bad Rhino? I'm like, well, after 7 years going on 8 now, you don't want to change it. But also, I like having Bad Rhino because you have to be a little committed. Plus, you also are like, Bad Rhino. That's a little interesting. Like, it's not something that's just D&M something or other, or you have Rich and Marty's marketing emporium type stuff, and it's boring. It's Bad Rhino. It's just something that's simple, but it evokes a response. And if you're going to use a Bad Rhino, then what is that? And we want that experience to follow. We work with our clients to make sure that they understand through analytics what's going on. There's constant updates where we're monitoring things for them, but at the same time, we want that experience to be unique. A lot of times when we get clients that are in beer and golf, we get, we hired an agency. And that's like their opening statement, and I could just tell by the tone. It's like, oh man, this is going to be an interesting conversation. But it happens, and they always say, we wish we would have, and there's 2 or 3 things that they say. So the first one is, we wish we would have just talked to them a little bit more about what they were going to do, because we didn't understand it. We needed to be educated on the whole online marketing piece, whether it was social or otherwise. The second thing they say is they always felt like we're in the dark with content. They would just post something and we didn't get to approve it. That's something that we've never done from the beginning. We see it more as a collaborative relationship with all our clients, but especially in beer and golf, because there's a feel to it. Your clientele might be a little bit different if you're in, I'm just going to use these as an example, if you're in a retirement community in Florida versus being in Beverly Hills, speaking to golf brand. Could be different in a beer market if you are craft beer market, if you're in the inner city, say you're in like Brooklyn versus in the middle of nowhere in central PA. Your beer might be great on both ends, but it could be slightly different clientele. I could pretty much guarantee that. But as you're going through and you're developing that, you want to make sure that you understand who it is and you're engaging your clients to do that. And then that's like what Bad Rhino, what I mean by crafting that experience. We want to make sure that you're involved, especially at the beginning. Once we're hitting those results and we're fly, it becomes a little less, but we also want to craft experiences in the other ways, adopting rhinos and having a little fun with the name, putting things out there, whether it's gifts during the holidays or other things, to just get talking points and making sure that we're having an experience, not just being a transactional agency. And that's been a lot of fun, being a boutique agency and being able to work with brands that we're passionate about and having a lot of fun. Even the ones that aren't so fun, where you're dealing with things that aren't golf and beer or aren't something that's relatively fun, like commercial real estate. It's fun to a degree, but you also have to come up with some unique things to make that flow and make that fly. And I think I know we've been able to do that. And it's just coming down to that custom experience. So that's it for today. It's a little bit about us, a little bit about our philosophy at Bad Rhino and who we are in crafting those experiences. We're going to talk about a few new things in the next episodes, talking about, well, maybe you shouldn't be online and maybe you shouldn't modernize some of your stuff. So looking forward to that, but I'd like to keep these short so we don't bore you, but I want to keep them in there because everybody's time is valuable. So have a great day.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.